Most ambitious men fail at self-improvement not from lack of desire, but from following unnecessarily complex systems. The disciplined few have discovered a counterintuitive truth. Sustainable growth comes from strategic simplification, not addition. They leverage what I call the daily victory framework, turning ordinary days into consistent progress by working with your brain's natural energy cycles. This approach creates something motivation alone never could: an unshakable architecture for discipline that persists through inevitable motivation drops. What if winning required doing less, but with extraordinary focus and perfect timing? Modern self-improvement culture has trapped men in a cycle of perpetual failure through three specific mechanisms. First, the complexity fallacy, believing that sophisticated tracking systems and multiple simultaneous habits equate to faster growth. In reality, this approach overwhelms your decision-making capacity, depleting the very willpower needed to maintain consistency. Second, the invisible pressure of social comparison. When you're constantly bombarded with highlight reels of others' discipline, you subconsciously adopt unrealistic standards that generate shame rather than progress. Finally, the failure to align improvement efforts with your body's natural energy rhythms, fighting against your biochemistry rather than leveraging it. This misalignment creates a psychological burden that few discuss: the cognitive tax of tracking too many metrics simultaneously. Each additional habit or goal you monitor increases mental overhead exponentially, not linearly. Your brain, designed for efficiency, begins to resist the mounting complexity. This resistance manifests as procrastination, which you then mistakenly attribute to lack of motivation rather than systemic overload. Consider this: when was the last time your ambitious plan survived contact with an unexpected work crisis or family emergency? The harsh reality is that most improvement frameworks collapse under real-world pressure because they demand perfection rather than strategic resilience. Your day's trajectory is largely determined within the first 60 minutes after waking. This isn't motivational hyperbole, it's neurological fact. When you defeat the snooze button, you're making a fundamental declaration to your subconscious that you follow through on commitments, even uncomfortable ones. This small victory creates a neurochemical signature, a dopamine release that primes your brain for further disciplined action. Men who consistently improve understand that this initial battle sets the foundation for all subsequent challenges. The moment your alarm sounds becomes a daily crossroads. Choose comfort, and you've already compromised your standards before your feet hit the floor. Instead of reaching for your phone, reach for water. Overnight dehydration significantly impairs cognitive function, yet most men immediately stimulate their already taxed nervous system with caffeine and information. Strategic hydration, specifically 16 to 20 ounces of room temperature water with electrolytes, reawakens your brain's frontal cortex, responsible for executive function and willpower. This single habit creates a 27% improvement in morning decision-making capacity according to cognitive performance research. Purposeful movement creates the critical transition between sleep and wakefulness. I'm not suggesting an intense workout, just 3 to 5 minutes of deliberate stretching focused on spine mobility and shoulder opening. This activates your sympathetic nervous system appropriately, unlike the jarring adrenaline spike from emergency-style waking. Dynamic stretching increases blood flow to your brain by 15%, enhancing cognitive processing speed before you've even begun your formal day. Your physical environment directly influences your mental state. Take 4 minutes to execute what I call tactical tidying, making your bed with military precision, clearing visible surfaces, and organizing your immediate workspace. This creates visual order that your brain interprets as cognitive control. Men who implement this report a 34% reduction in decision fatigue throughout the morning hours and demonstrate measurably higher task completion rates. The final component of winning the first hour is intention setting, not vague aspirations, but concrete declarations of prioritized action. Rather than creating an overwhelming to-do list, identify your keystone task, the single achievement that would make everything else easier or unnecessary. Write this down physically, not digitally. The neuromuscular action of writing activates commitment centers in your brain that digital inputs cannot match. This intention becomes your day's compass, allowing you to recalibrate when distractions inevitably arise. What makes this morning framework different is its reliance on biochemical alignment rather than willpower. By sequencing these 5 elements, conquering the alarm, strategic hydration, purposeful movement, environment optimization, and intention setting, you create a neurological cascade effect that naturally enhances discipline. This isn't about forcing yourself into rigid routines, but leveraging your brain's natural architecture to create momentum. The compound effect of winning the first hour extends far beyond morning. It fundamentally alters how you approach challenges throughout the day. Your midday performance hinges on managing your biology, not fighting it. Implement strategic movement breaks every 45 minutes. 30 seconds of hip and thoracic spine mobility increases cerebral blood flow by 15%, preventing the decision-making collapse most men experience between 1 to 3 p.m. Nutritionally, replace carbohydrate-heavy meals with the cognitive performance triad: 25-30 g protein, under 50 g complex carbs, and 15-20 g healthy fats. This specific macronutrient balance prevents insulin-driven brain fog, maintaining neural transmission speed through reduced inflammation. Master the focused burst methodology: 30 to 45-minute deep work sessions with 5 to 7-minute recovery periods. By creating environmental lockdown conditions that eliminate all potential distractions. At your workday's midpoint, conduct a 3-minute energy audit across physical, emotional, and cognitive domains, then implement the appropriate intervention: walking, nutrition, meditation, or strategic social interaction. Finally, perform the alignment check-in. Is my current activity advancing my keystone task? This pattern-interrupting question forces immediate course correction, reinforcing your identity as someone who honors self-commitments with unwavering discipline. Evening hours represent your greatest opportunity for advancement, yet most squander this time through passive consumption. Strategic physical training during this window metabolizes accumulated stress hormones while priming your nervous system for recovery, with intensity modulation being critical. High-intensity work must be completed 3 hours before sleep, while restorative movement can happen later. This approach reduces cortisol levels by up to 40%, effectively neutralizing mental fatigue. Replace mindless scrolling with targeted expertise development, identifying your field's most valuable skill and dedicating 30 to 45 focused minutes to deliberate practice. Create implementation triggers through a specialized notebook where you record one actionable insight and its specific application to current challenges. This transforms abstract knowledge into concrete capability. Implement a 3-question reflection framework. What victory did I achieve today? What obstacle prevented greater progress? What specific adjustment would create better results tomorrow? Document these reflections by hand. The neuromuscular act of writing encodes insights more deeply into procedural memory, accelerating skill acquisition by 34%. For sleep optimization, implement a 30-minute digital sunset to prevent blue light's 50% suppression of melatonin. Create optimal environmental conditions. Temperature reduction: 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, complete darkness, and white noise if necessary, improving deep sleep duration by 27%. Finally, prepare tomorrow by laying out exercise clothes, preparing nutrition, and identifying your first 3 morning actions, reducing decision fatigue and increasing morning productivity by 42%. The transformation that occurs when implementing this daily framework extends far beyond mere productivity gains. You'll experience what psychologists call identity consolidation, where disciplined action stops feeling like constant self-coercion and becomes a natural extension of who you are. This shift eliminates the exhausting internal negotiations that drain most men's willpower reserves. As your brain adapts to these strategic energy management principles, you'll develop an intuitive sense of appropriate effort application. Work quality improves not through longer hours, but through enhanced cognitive precision. Relationships transform as your emotional regulation capacity expands. You'll respond rather than react, even under significant pressure. The most profound change occurs in your relationship with challenge itself. Obstacles become data points rather than emotional triggers. This framework doesn't just help you do more. It fundamentally alters how you experience the pursuit of excellence, creating sustainable momentum that persists long after initial motivation fades. I challenge you to commit to this system for the next 14 days, not because it's easy, but because it demands the very discipline you seek to develop. Start tomorrow morning. No preparation, no perfect conditions. When the first hour, manage your midday energy. Implement the evening reflection protocol. Document your experience daily. Track not just what you accomplish, but how your relationship with discipline evolves. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistent recalibration. The men who take this challenge seriously will discover something profound, that greatness isn't reserved for the naturally gifted, but for those willing to align their actions with biological reality. The question isn't whether this system works. The neuroscience is irrefutable. The only question is whether you'll be among the few who actually implement it. Make your decision now. Subscribe to continue this journey of transformation. Your future self is watching your choice in this moment. Will you remain trapped in complexity or embrace the power of strategic simplicity? The next 2 weeks could change everything.